That's it. Yeah, by the outside.
Why don't we just hire an outside place?
Like a struggling with two friends. Cloud money.
That's how he bridges himself.
Why hire an expert?
That's it.
That's
it.
That's one more around for 6 months.
Right, and you could pay me also.
By the way, you heard about what is para?
Yeah, Pete.
Too far gone, my friend.
I really appreciate that comment. I got these, I didn't give them out.
That's really good.
Anybody need a copy?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Just give me a second.
They're also on the Yeah, you give them all away? I'll give them all away. Have them.
I want to begin by thanking Rabbi Rahmani, the Mishpacha, for sponsoring the Shira. The Nishmas, his father, Rabbi Noam and Chaim. As Hashem Shabbat Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, so we're going to finish what I feel we should be doing here in this booklet for the Bachram. Just the last piece for 2 minutes on guarding our eyes. Again, this is a conversation with the kids, and then I wanted to do something from the page that you just got is the first part of a longer Torah, which we'll hopefully be able to continue with over Pesach, after Pesach, from the Mechaber of Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. But this is really the second part of what to talk to the Chevra, to the boys about, following up with what we're doing over here. And then there's a certain book I would recommend also in this topic of the conversation. Actually, there are 2 pretty good books about it. But let's just finish this last piece on guarding our eyes, which we spoke a lot about in Shemir Seinayim, just in the context of the conversation with the guys. Our eyes play an important role in the body, as they are the gateway to the heart and to the soul. So we spoke a lot about the bris ha'inayim, the connection between the bris ha'inayim, the eyes, the bris karati. There's a bris with Hashem made with our eyes, and the bris of Yosef HaZadik, and also the bris of Haloshin. These are the brisais on the body, the eyes, the mouth, and the bris milah. And those 3 are very, very deeply connected. The openings, the gateways to the heart and to the soul. Everything we see causes us to think. If, for example, you saw a beautiful view on a trip somewhere, you'll likely remember it and even be able to conjure it up in your mind days or weeks after you return home. The Torah tells us not to stray after your heart and your eyes. A pasuk we recite twice a day in Shema. What does it mean to stray? What does it mean to stray after one's eyes? So Chazal have explained that this refers to not gazing at women or not dressed modestly, or at immodest scenes or images. Immodest images tempt the heart and the brain in an improper and unhealthy way. Since your memory works so well at allowing you to recall events at a later time, Hashem commands us to guard our eyes from images that can have a negative influence on the heart and our thoughts. I once mentioned to you that I remember that it was a long time ago. There was a place that we were in the mountains, and there's a very chashuv woman over there who wanted to talk to me. She was having issues with her husband. She wanted to discuss some things, and she came from a very prominent family, and she was raised in Kedusha B'Tahara. And she said that she had this one friend when she was something like 16 or 17, there's always that one friend. Sometimes there are a couple, but there's the one who's the mesis or mediach in your life, and there's one friend convinced her to go to a movie with her. And nowadays, it doesn't, a movie, you don't have to go anywhere. You just take the thing out of your pocket. You're in Hollywood. So, I don't mean Florida, I mean. So, she said that she, again, without her parents knowing, she came from a very strict background. Without her parents knowing, she went with this friend someplace, and they went to a movie. And there was a scene in the movie. She told me, the way she was crying when she said this to me. She was talking about her issues with her husband, shalom bayis things, and she said that I saw that it was around 40 years ago, and licked me in cup. I can't get this thing. All the years I can't get it out of my head, and it has caused such. And she said, listen to her credit. She said she got up and she ran out. She ran out of the theater. She ran out of the theater. She's very, very from. She ran out of the theater. And she said, it was look me and cup all the years. Chassidish girl. Licked me and cup. I can't get this out of my head. And it comes different times how it shows up. Like, davening or Yom Kippur and how it's affected her relationship with her husband in different ways. So you might think they were so jaded because we've seen many more than the one thing that she saw in the movies, because she at one time to a movie in her life. But those images, they're there, whether you're consciously in that place or they're sitting there, they're there. So the way that they got there is because of things that we've seen, and they remain. And as he says, Hashem commands us from images that can have a negative influence on the heart and our thoughts. And that's what she was telling me, that it affects her connection to her husband. She was talking about this.
But baby, that's crazy, I mean, for 40 years. Seriously. I know you said the story a few years ago also. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy story.
Yeah. It's not a good story.
It's not a good story.
I know that. I know it's not a good story. I'm not telling it over because it's something which we're going to enjoy. The difference between I'm sorry.
I think it's just she has certain sensitivity.
The difference between her and us is what I mentioned at the end, that we're jaded. Yeah. Is that she never saw anything in her life.
Yeah.
So then the question is, so does that mean we there's like when it comes the kids, like I have a granddaughter that's allergic with with the eating a lot of things, with nuts and all this different stuff. So there's a mahalach of how to bring to insensitivity. At a certain point, the kids had to give her more slowly to create this insensitivity. Masha'en came, if she would never ever have that, so then even one thing could send her to the hospital. So there is this desensitization, that they do lechatchila to help the kid, deal with these things in the future. So there's always this question about, so in that world of nothing at all, where there's no desensitization, and because of that they're unbelievably vulnerable to any attack because they've never been exposed to it. So there's always this shaila: what is the right way? What do we do? So do we? And this comes up all the time. There might be that friend that your kid has. So is it better? Okay, there's that friendship. I'm not thrilled about that kid, and I know that kid's been exposed to. I can tell you, this is the most unbelievable thing that I have a granddaughter of mine that's helping a family as a chesed. She's helping a family with a 6-year-old son. My granddaughter is doing a nice thing. She's helping. It was set up through, I don't know, maybe Suri, something was set up, and my granddaughter, not Suri's kid, Shani's, is helping with this kid. And the kid is 6 years old, a 6-year-old boy. And she came home, my granddaughter came home and told her mother the things that this kid talks about. He's 6 years old. The mother's, they're divorced, the parents, and the mother is trying to take care of the children. And this 6-year-old boy has a phone without a filter. 6 years old, and he was saying things that my granddaughter never heard of in her life, like very explicit, graphic things, which he couldn't possibly understand, but he's watching things as a 6-year-old boy. So that I never heard of. So the shaila is, what's going to be with this kid? He has other things going against him, unfortunately, because of the matzah that he's in. It's not a good matzah. But what's going to be with this child? So there's there's that exposure, and now I'm upset about my granddaughter. She's like, she heard crazy stuff. So we're trying to, on the one hand, we're trying to. All of us have this idea of protecting we want our children to be protected from ugly, coarse things. On the other hand, to this terrible story of this Hasidic girl, that she never saw anything, then she went to the movies. So, which is worse? Which is better? I don't think it's ever. I don't know if that's ever been resolved. The tzaddikim, Chazal and the tzaddikim have taught us to do our best to protect our children. So it seems that the mahalach is the way that her parents raised her in purity. The problem is, are we able to prepare the children? And this is what this is about. In other words, I think that what the Torah wants. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this what the Torah wants is that we should do our best to raise them in absolute purity, pureness, whatever, to raise them pure, but to talk to them and to prepare them. See, what didn't work with this 50-year-old lady is because her parents never spoke to her about anything. It was totally like, because that's how it was when I was, none of our parents, I mean, maybe some did, none of our parents that I know, my friends' parents didn't talk about this stuff at all. And the Rebbeim didn't talk about it, the parents didn't talk about it. The only ones that spoke to us about it were the people on the television and the movies. But nobody, like, the Yiras Shamayim spoke to us about it. So that's the problem. I think the way l'chadchila to do this is to try to do what we can to preserve the tahara of our children. We try to send them to the right schools and to raise them in neighborhoods. And we try, but with this girl, and again, I don't know how it's like in the Hasidic community now. Maybe those who were raised in that could fill us in a little bit, but she never ever heard of anything. Her parents never spoke to her about anything. There was never, like in some of the schools nowadays, I know, let's say the more modern schools, because my wife told me when she was teaching, I think when she was teaching in SKA, that they did a terrific thing. They brought in somebody like a therapist, a woman, to talk to them, to talk to the kids about different things. So if the kids are raised in Tahara, in Kedusha and Tahara, and nobody talks to them about what's coming up around the corner, then we have this terrible story about this lady that can't stop dealing with it. Has not dealt with this her whole life. She still has that movie in her head. Another reaction or another response that some of the chevra have from that background is then they bury themselves in it. They throw themselves in it completely. They lose themselves in it. So I think l'chadchila, the healthiest thing is to try to protect our kids to the best of our ability, but we don't want to have that story when they're 50 years old. So to talk to them, all the things that we've been learning over these past bunch of years is not just for ourselves, it's to try to have a certain havana, according to Chazal and the tzaddikim, of how the Torah looks at these things, and to be able to develop a sprach to talk to our kids, which again I didn't do. I didn't do that because I continued on with the Masorah that I received. And the Masorah that I received was silence. That was what I received, and I'm very loyal to my Masorah, but I regret it. I regret that. Things were different back when I was a little kid in the 50s and the 60s. It was growing up. It was very different than now. In those years, if you were raising a kid in Gula or let's say Lahavdil, here in America in a neighborhood like Williamsburg or Monroe or something, if you were raising a kid, there was a pretty good possibility that you'd be able to get them to the chuppah pretty clean. It was a good chance. Even though I went to modern yeshivas, it was pretty clean. The journey was pretty clean. There were one or two guys that were with these things, but mostly it was pretty clean. But nowadays, whether you're you could be in Meir Sharm, in Gula, one person shows you something. It's finished. So how are you supposed to then ignore that and make believe that it's not happening when you know that your kids, every one of your kids, by the time that they're not 6, I hope, but by the time that they're, I don't know these days, I really don't know, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, the chances are that they've seen something. Because there's always that person, that kid, or they've heard something strange, or they've seen something. I had once a person that was in his 30s that was talking to me here that was raised in not in a chassidische home, but was raised in one of the neighborhood homes. And one time happened in Indian that he was in the middle of the night and he was afraid of something, or he didn't feel well, and he went to get to his mommy, and he heard noises, and he opened the door a little bit, and he saw his parents. And a Maisa. It made him so crazy. He didn't tell the parents. He didn't tell the parents, and he was explaining to me his addiction to pornography when it began. Now I heard to hear such a thing, and he never told his parents about it. Now that would have been a conversation before he was, I don't know what he told me, 15 or 16, I don't remember how old. But that would have been a conversation getting ready when he was bar mitzvah about what happens with, how babies come into the world, a little bit like this stuff. And if he would have heard about that, and it would have been brought into the world of Kedusha, and as per all of the limudim that we're trying to do, and it would have been framed in a way of Torah, that would still be a very uncomfortable and awkward thing. They should have locked the door. That would still be a very uncomfortable and awkward experience for a kid. But it wouldn't have sent them spiraling into the darkness that, I haven't spoken to him, but I know that it ruined his life. I hope he's having a yeshua, but it ruined his life. He went crazy with this thing. He never spoke to his parents, and he told me he didn't speak to any Rebbe or any teacher. He just winged it. He spoke to a couple of his friends, which just makes it worse, not better. He said there was one friend that told him, you really should talk to your parents about it. You should talk to your parents. He said there was one friend, and the other friend said, "What are you, crazy? You talk to your parents about it?" So the usual minhag back years ago was not to talk to your parents about anything, about personal, deep intimacy or things like that, even if you had the nicest and most open parents. It just wasn't the mahalach back then. So I think that the story is a terrible story because she didn't have that conversation or conversations. And because of that, if you're not exposed at all and there's no desensitization, then on that horrible day when you either open the door and see something, or you go to a movie or see something, you're gonna be very, very hurt by it. You can be very hurt by it. So is the answer what some people say? I think that the healthiest thing to do is that my child should be exposed to this. How do you control that? What do you do? I'm just interested, curious if you have any What does that mean? Benkach, like their cousins, they see girls, the boys, if they have some cousins, or the sister has a friend over, they're thinking about this stuff. When the cousins come over and you have a son, and there's a boy that's already 9, 10 years old, and there's an older sister, and she has her pretty little friends over, they don't have to even be pretty, they're just girls. Or there are cousins, and the cousins are starting to mature a little bit, then your son or sons are chazring us over in their heads 1,000 times. They're chazring it over. And that's healthy. There's nothing evil. They're normal boys. They're chazring it over in their heads. So, if we talk to them about these things, then that's a natural desensitization that yes, they are exposed to some things, but we help them work with that. But does that mean that I'm going to send my kid, my 16-year-old, to a co-ed camp? What are you, out of your mind? I'm sorry if anybody, I don't mean that. When I say out of your mind, it's a reckless thing to do. One of the rebellion from the just was talking to me a few weeks ago about going back this summer to where he went. He said it's absolute hefkerus. I don't want to say the name of the camp. It's a co-ed camp, and they don't have there's no alligators with a moat in between. You understand? But he said that the scary thing is that they all pride themselves, like when they sit and they have their staff meetings, like the head people there, they pride themselves like everything here. We are the co-ed camp, the model for all co-ed camps, because everything here is b'kedusha b'tahara. And this Rebbe was telling me, it's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. And the two narratives that are taking place over there. Now, when I was growing up, there was a story circulating on the yeshivas. It could be it was made up, that there was a girl from one of these camps that was expecting. Now, this Rebbe told me it's absolutely crazy what's going on. Co-ed camps. So either the guy that's running it is lying, which I'm assuming he's not. He's an eloquent person, or he's being tricked and fooled because the kids are good at it, and they've always been good at it. We were good at it, so why shouldn't the kids nowadays be good at it? To live double lives. Doesn't stop the boy from showing up in the morning to put on his tefillin. It doesn't stop the girl from showing up with their tefillin. And everybody's shalom yisrael. But what goes on after curfew? What goes on after curfew? It's a total of chaos. And this camp, I'm not going to say, but because they're all trying it and they mean well. But this camp has the name of being from the better ones of the co-ed camps. I mean, when I say better, that they try hard. So they think, so each place thinks now that we have a kollel, because that became a thing to do, right? The co-ed camps, and again, that's good that they have a kollel. I'm not saying that they should have a kollel, but that doesn't mean just because you have some bunk someplace, but you're out in the woods with some tzaddikim sitting and learning all day, that everything is fine. So you have a kollel that's terrific. But the kids that are in the camp are not in the kollel. So it's normal and it's natural. So now, going back to l'chatchila, I should send my kid to a co-ed camp. Because this way, I've had parents that have told me this, that they think that's the correct mahalach. Because it's a healthier mahalach. The healthy mahalach is, let them be exposed to it, and this way they'll know how to deal with it. It could be sometimes, but I don't think you have to do anything extra to expose your kids these days. There's no reason to send a kid to a place like that. Again, all my friends who run these places should forgive me. I don't mean to talk like against the camps, because there's a need for these places, obviously. But the same thing with the schools, because they're kids that won't go to yeshiva. I understand all of that. But is that l'chatchila? The kids nowadays are exposed benkach or benkach. As I said, they're exposed to it in Bobiv and Bells also. In some way, they're exposed to it. So therefore, it's not. What Mayasa ben v'le'echta. So the parents of our generation have an achrayus to to try to have a relationship with a kid where they could talk to you about it and how to deal with it. But you don't have to send your kid off to some co-ed program in order to make sure that he'll be desensitized to these things. That's not a good. That's in my opinion. That's a very bad idea. That schools should be separate, boys and girls. Camps should be separate, boys and girls. And don't worry, they'll see stuff. They don't have to be. They don't have to smell the girl's perfume over the fence or something. They don't have any barbed wire or electric stuff that's going on in these places. So, but this is this island. It is true that they need to be prepared. If you want to raise a child that's pure, the child needs to be prepared. And how do you prepare the child? Hashem gave us an achayis to talk to them. I don't know what else there is to do. Let me hear. Mordechai, you were saying something before?
Oh, just exactly what we said. The sensitization, the sensitivities. That's all.
It has to be done in a healthy way. By them seeing stuff like Acha Hapargud illegally, talking to the girl or having a little affair with some girl when no one keeping it a secret, they're learning how to live double lives. And I always tell the parents that if you have a choice, same thing. The next part over here is on the internet, which we're not going to do because that Torah it's a whole different Torah for that. But I tell the parents that when they come to talking about what do I allow my child to watch, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. The kid's going crazy. The friends all have smartphones, and my kid wants to have a smartphone, and it's okay to filter it, but I want to have a smartphone. We have chats, we have sports, and I can't. I'm the only one in my class. What do you do? Every parent has this now. I mean, in this neighborhood, they might not in other neighborhood, maybe again, a ch'tish neighborhood, none of the kids have it, but here, it's true. Your kids telling you, not all the kids have it. They always say that, but there are kids that have it, and those parents have an achrayus. Those parents have an achrayus, and in my opinion, I'm going to use a strong word now. It's a rishus on the part of those parents that mess it up for the other parents. It's mamish a rishus. Because if all the parents would be on the same page, and there wouldn't be any little 6-year-old or 10-year-old or 12-year-old with a smartphone, it would be across the board. And it wouldn't be this game, do you agree, do you sign a paper? But it would be be'emes, and the parents would cooperate, and it would be'emes, we could rescue the generation, together with all the other things that we're talking about, learn. But it's dishonest. And the parents, and then what happens invariably is, and I have this in the house because my granddaughter's living with us, and she comes home and she says, "But this friend and this one and that, and Lomanigara, why shouldn't I? How do you argue with that? So you want to say something like not nice, like our family is different, that speech. It's local kachifa, I try to teach them Ahavas Yisrael. So you want to say our family is different. So then we try something like not a little different from that to say, well, no, they're wonderful people. They're very nice people. However, it's fancier than Bud. It's the same thing. You can say, or nevertheless, however, you can look it up in the thesaurus, whatever you like. But we have these hopes and expectations. You get to this ridiculous drasha. And then the kid just sits there and says, "No, I want it." After your whole drasha, I want it. Why? Because Chayala has it. So and Bailey has it, and Rachela has it. So why shouldn't Spencer have it? What is it that? But there are many girls in your class that don't have it. Many do. Why shouldn't I? So what do you do? What do you say? You never had this problem?
Every day.
And not only that, and then it has this way of corroding your relationship with your kid. It gets into that. It used to be just you have a kid and it's like you're happy, you raise a kid. This Indian gets into the relationship and it wears it like down. Just you get tired. because there always were things with parents and kids that you have to. There's always like these little skirmishes and milchamas, but it used to be about like I want to go to bed a little bit later or something, or can I play outside for another hour? That was when I was growing up. The weather was nice. We'd be playing ball. It was getting dark, and the mothers would start coming out, to get us. And then we'd start arguing. Why can't they stay outside a little bit? I mean, this was in 1962 or something. Okay, but there were always these milchamas, but they were like you're not. It's not with Hamas, you understand? But now with this thing, it's Hamas.
So, Rebbe,
What are you supposed to do?
What's the answer to that question?
The girls in the class have it. Let's say
Every single
We're not.
family has a different answer, and it's okay to say, it's okay to know that there is no real answer. Because really the answer is not in words. That's what I'm trying to get at. The answer is trying to raise a family where your kids can talk to you about it. So what I usually tell these parents is, it's not kedai to make a milchama over it. Again, they're different. I'm not saying it's a klal. Every family is different. But oftentimes I find myself saying, listen, what are you going to do? This is going to be hand-to-hand combat. The way to do this is I know we're not happy about this. It's b'dev, but under the circumstances, with all the filters and going to the store where they do that stuff and whatever, filtered as best as possible. A certain amount of time per week or whatever, how you do that. You work out something, again, I'll say 15 minutes a week. I understand something a little bit that they could feel good about, a certain amount of time a week. In public. Zot merit, not in your room with the door closed and I'm seeing some light coming out from a dark room. No vahi erev vahi biker situation. In the kitchen, or wherever the mommy's hanging out, or in your study or something with you. They could sit on the couch while you're learning or doing something. Then a certain amount of time, and this is the rule, honey. You blow this, you mess this up. In other words, if you're dishonest, it's gone for whatever the warden says, a week, 10 days. If you're not, because sheker. See, what's happening to the kids is they're learning how to be lawyers. That's what's going on. That's the story in the camp. The story in the camp is that they're sitting in the staff dining room having supper or something, and they got these things going on, or they're being planned, for after curfew. And you're teaching, the kids are being taught to lie. The families where the kid does have something, but there's an understanding that we're going to be open and honest here to the best of our ability. We're going to be straight about it. If you lie to me, if you play games, if I find out that you got some disposable phone someplace in CVS, I don't know if they do that. If I find out, if I hear something like that, that means that you've broken our trust. I take that personally. That's something which is hurtful to me and your mother. And that means that you can't be trusted. You want to be able to carry this thing. This is not good for a kid your age. It's not good. We're not happy about it. We don't agree with this. None of them should be doing it. You or your friends should not be doing this. But if this is what it's come down to, and you're going to be having this, it's on our terms, and it has to be a matter of trust. And I want to tell you something, sweetheart. I'm going to find out if you're not being straight. Trust me. I know how. I'm going to find out. How? No, I'll find out. Yeah. I'm sorry. No, Jay wanted to say before.
That's okay.
Ernie. We defer to Ernie's got 5 years on Jay.
I deferred.
Ernie, you would. Ernie.
age before beauty.
That's a challenge.
The problem is with the parents. If there's no consistency with the parents, you could put whatever filters you can.
It's Gunish and Telfin. The parents, that's you see, we learned that maybe 8 years ago by the Ben Sarah Myra. We were talking about a Torah about the Ben Sarah Myra, and then Shemeva Kol Aviv Kol Imai. We learned it again. We chazal a few years ago, And Chazal say that the parents have to have the same voice. It's the strangers, right? The parents have to have the same voice. They're not. So the Sfarim say it's not talking about that your mother talks like a guy, or your father talks like a girl. What does it mean that the koil is shava? They're not talking about voice. They're talking about on the same page. They have the same voice. Yeah, because of one of them, and this one says, okay, daddy's not here now. Oh, or mommy's. I won't tell mommy. That's the end of it. There's nothing to talk about. Finished. If the parents are not together on it, and the kids are picking up on the slightest scent of hypocrisy, the tiniest little schmeck of hypocrisy, or of being disingenuous, being not on the same page, or there's being some kind of a Broadway production, it doesn't. Then they go into that place, the cave. They go into the cave. They find out ways to go to hide, because their parents themselves they see are lawyers. They see their parents are phonies. So that's why I say the parents are teaching the children to lie. And this is what the thing that I hear from kids all the time is, you talk to them later on, not when they're little, they don't talk to you about it, they'll say, oh yeah, I know for a fact that my Mora, she has a smartphone. It was like this stuff. Or my mother sits more on it. I know when my mother's on the thing. This is the stuff they cannot succeed in a world of hypocrisy and sheker. Then they become shakranim. They become liars. They might not lie in business or something, but they start to live that double life, and then you end up with some daughter-in-law who's married to your son, who finds out that your son has stuff on his phone, God forbid. This is what's going on all the time. And then your daughter-in-law comes to you and says, I'm having a problem with my husband, your son, right? I'm having a problem with your son. And you say something like, I promise you I did not know that. And she says, well, I caught him with some really bad stuff, and he told me that he's doing this since the time that he's 15. And you're standing like a leimachel, saying, Sarach Ian. I didn't know. I'll look into it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to marry you to somebody like that. That's stuck in this stuff. I didn't know. That's a bad thing. These are terrible things, terrible stories. Worse than the story about the Chassidish girl in the movie theater. It's worse. How did we not know? Okay, listen. The kids will be kids. They hide stuff. I mean, they will. But the whole point of all of this is to try to do a better job of giving the kids a feeling that it's okay, it's not dirty, it's not bad. We can talk to daddy about it. We can talk to mommy about it. Let's talk. To try to open that up. I'm seeing, Baruch Hashem, that finally, and Mordechai was telling me a little bit, an update on this, because he's working with people's parents and this, with the Chaver from Amudim, and Mordechai's Andy. So really, Andy is Mordechai, but so there, Baruch Hashem, there's now an increasing awareness on the part of the yeshivas, I don't know, Manalim and parents, that we have to do something about this. We have to do something about this, and I'm optimistic. I don't go for this too little, too late thing. I think that it could be. We have to try our best. We have to try our best, but it can't. Such things can't happen. That your daughter-in-law comes and says to you, "Who did you marry off? Who did you marry to? Your son. You know what your son is? You know what your son is? Your son is a mushchas. My son is a mushchas. What are you talking about? He says since he's a kid, he's doing this stuff. And you're standing there saying, then you go talk to your wife, and it's like, did you? No. Did you? No. How could it be? And he didn't get any help. And then he's married to some nice girl. She's some nice frum girl. And then she ends up finding something on her husband's phone. As we're talking, this is going on all over the place. How could this be? The kids didn't feel that they could talk to us. They never felt safe or comfortable in talking to us. Now, there's no guarantee even if we try, but it certainly there's a better chance of it working. So that's why, coming back to what's the answer? There's no answer. There's, let's work together. You and I. The kid says, and you could tell your kid, you know something, the world was right there. We didn't have internet when I was a kid. We didn't have this stuff. But don't think we didn't have nisyanis. Of course we had nisyanis. And then, Daddy, did you ever succumb to nisyan? Yes. I did. And I could talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you graphically about it, but I will tell you that I respect you because you're struggling with things I never had to struggle with. Because when I was your age, there was nothing like this stuff going on. It wasn't like this. There's always been Zach and Akeva. There's always been guys and girls. And that's always been an Indian and an Nisayan. But your Nisyanis are different than ours. And if I can help you in any way, I'm here for you. So, and I also had to grow up with our own Nisyanis, and it's okay to talk about it. You're not going to be less of a tzaddik in your kid's eyes. You'll be a bigger tzaddik in your kid's eyes, not less of a tzaddik. Of course, you have to use discretion, but you'll be a bigger tzaddik in your kid's eyes. It's the ones who are trying to make believe that there's nothing. And if you would, and do you have, when that kid, I try to get into my granddaughter's head, into the kids' heads. And if you see, there's something which is exciting. There's a lot of great stuff that their friends are talking about, that they see, and all these things. And if it would be me or you think that it would be easy for us? In other words, if we go back and I'd be a 14-year-old kid, and your parents just say to you, no. Doesn't the doctor tell you not to eat certain things, and you eat them? The doctor never told you that's not good for you? The doctor told you it's not good to smoke, or it's not good to drink, or it's not good to look at, and the rabbis don't scream that it's not good to look at stuff on your phone. And you're always misgaber? Bamis. Beinenus. Sevishnun's. But the 14-year-old, she's supposed to have, or the 15-year-old, he's supposed to be misgaber. And you tell him, no phone at all. No phone. All it means to him is, okay, my father's nuts. I'm gonna go plan B. What's plan B? My friends. Yeah. Or disposable phone at CVS. I don't even know there's such a thing, because somebody once told me there's such a thing as getting a phone that you don't have to, your parents don't find out about it. There's a way to get a phone that's not on any records.
That's dope.
Yeah. Well, Jay, you're getting back to what you going to say before.
Oh, no. I wanted to say that the one thing that I think is maybe a little missing here is that we have to make the assumption that our kids already have seen these inyanim. When we go to speak to them, even if they're 10, 11 years old, we're talking to a boy, let's say.
Nowadays, I think so.
You have to make that assumption, and I think you have to bring that out in the discussion. And what I was thinking about is, trauma is a very big, focal point. When a kid first sees something like this, it's traumatizing.
Yeah, it is. It's trauma.
And you have to then take them into the realm of, that's a trauma. Because if you don't talk to them about it, the trauma becomes acceptance, because they don't know how to deal with that feeling.
Right.
So you have to expose it as trauma and say, look, this is traumatizing. It's hard. You saw something you don't understand. I want to bring that out. And say, and it's traumatizing for me to see something like that, and I'm not a lot older than you are. And I think if we push that honesty discussion out a little bit further, the kids will be drawn in that much more.
100%. 100%. There's no question it's traumatic. That's what happened to Achas girl. And that's what's happening to it's 100%. And even though I know the word trauma is used nowadays for everything, that first time that the little kid saw something, or imagine that kid opening the door to his parents' room, it's trauma, Shabbat trauma. There's no question about it. And then how to deal with that. It's a mashber. It's a crisis in that child's head and heart. There is an unbelievable atom bomb that just exploded. And to make believe like, you ever say that, whatever, they'll work it out. It doesn't go like that. and there are so many ways that it's not worked out, and how that affects their lives, how that affects them. The best possible thing is to create the possibility of having conversations, of talking, of preempting, and creating an environment where the child feels, I can talk to my father about this. I can talk to my, usually the girls, the mother, father, but I can talk to my father, I can talk to my mother. We could have a conversation about this. And and when it comes to the phone, that the kid gets a sense that my father gets me. That this is something that I desperately want in my life. But beyond desperation. They don't even know how to express the desperation. And that kid watches his father walking around all day long, holding onto his phone. And then the father says also something very, very, silly, like, well, of course, I'm in business. The kids don't go for that. So all you do all the time, that's all you do on there is that's just clients. They don't believe it, and they don't, and it's usually not true. And it doesn't mean they don't care. They just see the father or the mother walks around all day long, holding the thing, talking the thing, going the thing. This they sit at the supper table, and mommy's on the thing, and daddy's on this and that. And then, but you say, it's not for you. Why? You're too young. They don't go for that. You're too young. So, but you can create boundaries if the kid feels that you're sensitive to this need that they have. You just don't just poo-poo like it's nothing. You and I don't do so great with it. When we have needs that we want to have answered, it's not so pushy. So why should the kid doesn't? What kalim does the kid have to fight against things? He doesn't have kalim like that. We're already older people. We're supposed to have strong kalim. They don't have developed kalim to say no to things. So once they saw something, then they want to see it again. They want to see it again. They want to see it again. And and if the kid has the phone, you have to prepare the kid that even with the best filters, again, I don't know how it is with these filters. I don't know what the filters can keep out. But people have told me that even with the best filters, sometimes something can get. I don't know how it works. Something can get through. And I know every filter is different. I'm not quite sure how these things work. So, but the ikar is not whether the kid has the phone or doesn't have the phone. The ikar is whether the kid has his parents or doesn't have his parents. If he's going in this, like God forbid, like an orphan, then makes no difference how many filters you have. If he's going to this thing with two healthy parents that are not embarrassed or uncomfortable and can have conversations, and the kid doesn't have to start lying and hiding, then he'll survive and he'll be an Ehrlich Yid. He'll have Nisyan just like everybody else has Nisyan, but he'll be okay. He'll be okay. That's our avodah. I will finish this mitzvah next time.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to hold on. If anyone wants to give me the sheet, so hold on.